Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. And if you're a fan of the show, please make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. I like to point out each and every day, expands our base. This has been a remarkable 24 hours, and I want to speak particularly today about abuse of power. And I am going to say very clearly that Donald Trump and his administration are doing just that. Let us speak directly about James Comey and the indictment of James Comey. Are you convinced? Do you believe that James Comey, the former director of the FBI, really threatened the life of Donald Trump? Of course not. 8647, they were seashells on the shore, and he took a picture of it. And for this, he's being indicted. Now, he took it down because he didn't realize the implication. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize the implication either. I don't think there is an implication, really. When I'm at a restaurant and I order something, I may turn to the server who's taken my order and say, please 86 that. I would like to order something else. It doesn't mean I want to kill the waitress. It simply means I want to change my order. And yes, 47 is Donald Trump. So when you say 8647, all I can tell you is I don't view it as a death threat. What I view it as is a simple political statement that many people in the United States of America concur with. I would like to 86 Donald Trump. That is to say, I oppose many of his policies and would rather not see him in the White House. Now, here's the question. Do you believe that this indictment of James Comey is fair? And the answer is no. Do you believe that this is a political vendetta on the part of the President of the United States? The answer is yes. When the Attorney General, who is acting Attorney General, but would like the job permanently, is asked directly whether he was ordered by the White House to do it, he can answer honestly, no. But why do you think he did it? Because the acting Attorney General of the United States was determined to earn the favor of Donald Trump. May I tell you, this is political persecution. And the prosecution of James Comey is nonsense. Donald Trump has said repeatedly he wants him in jail, that he considers him to be a criminal. And that is the reason why this indictment is forthcoming. I'm not a lawyer, but I've talked to a number of lawyers in the last few hours, and many of them have said to me the same thing. This is the weakest indictment ever put forward by the Department of Justice. Just astounding, isn't it, that this abuse of power is allowed? But there's more. We've talked about Jimmy Kimmel, and we've talked about what he has said. And we've talked about the moves by Donald Trump and the First Lady to remove him from office. Oh, yes. When I say remove him from office, I mean from his office at ABC. That's right. Do you understand that now the F.C.C., a neutral body in theory, is going after this political vendetta against Jimmy Kimmel? ABC licenses for 8 stations should be canceled, according to the Trump administration. It is the most absurd, egregious violation of the First Amendment and freedom of speech. And of course, we need to understand what Jimmy Kimmel did may not have been the best joke. Frankly, I didn't get it until it was explained to me. But I'm not a fan of these kinds of comments by Jimmy Kimmel or, frankly, any other comedian. This, my friends, is a disgrace. And the American people and the members of Congress need to stand up and simply say no. I was fascinated by the address by King Charles to the Congress. First of all, I felt on so many levels he was rebuking Donald Trump. Now, he did it in such a way that it could be interpreted, well, any way Donald Trump wants, or frankly, any way we want. When I say we, I mean those who listen to his talking about separation of powers, the power of the judiciary, key elements, including the environment, which King Charles chose to emphasize. I thought it was a great speech. And Donald Trump was correct when he said it received bipartisan support, Democrats and Republicans, a standing ovation. And frankly, King Charles deserved it. I would frankly express to you my view that the reason Donald Trump does not receive bipartisan standing ovations is because of the nature of his rhetoric. And we've talked about that. We talked about it yesterday. Let me just be clear. The F.C.C. is no longer neutral. There is one Democrat who serves on the F.C.C., and the statement made by that commissioner was that this was a threat to the First Amendment. And may I say, the commissioner may be a Democrat, but the commissioner is correct. And then there was the comment made by the British ambassador to the United States, Christian Turner, who talked about special relationships and pointed out that the United States has a very special relationship with Israel. It does, and it should. But we also have a special relationship with Great Britain. He suggested that nostalgia and backward-looking views should not formulate what kind of a special relationship we should have. Let me be clear. We do look back on Britain with nostalgia, and it is not backward-looking, it's the reality. And as to Israel, of course we have a special relationship, affirmed by every president, Democrat and Republican, since the days of Harry Truman. It's a good thing. By the way, we have many special relationships in the world. Japan certainly has a special relationship with the United States. France certainly has a special relationship with the United States. There are nations who have stood by us. And one of the things that King Charles said in his speech resonated with me. And that is that on September the 11th, and today, by the way, King Charles is visiting the September 11th memorial in New York. On September 11th, we all stood together in horror and in solidarity against terrorism. King Charles hit the nail on the head. He did it with brilliance, and he deserves all the credit that he now deserves. By the way, I enjoyed his humor, too. Just a great all-around speech. No doubt he wrote most of it, but you understand that a king cannot speak independently in Britain. A king must conform to the views of the government. And so I'm sure the government had some input into what the king would say. I'm enjoying this state visit, by the way. The pageantry, the pomp, the ceremony, all appeals to all of us as Americans, even though we reject overwhelmingly the idea of monarchy. And that should be something we emphasize to Donald Trump. This country rejects monarchy. And by the way, have you noticed that Donald Trump has now instructed the State Department to issue a new passport with his picture on it that you can get if you go to Washington, D.C.? Have you seen the coin that is being distributed now that Donald Trump has authorized it in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of American independence? Have you noticed when you are in Washington that more and more signs indicate Donald Trump, whether it is on the John F. Kennedy Center, now called the Donald Trump John F. Kennedy Center, whether it is on the Center for Peace, whether it is a picture hanging from a department of the federal government. There is no doubt in my mind that this president's abuse of power and his egomaniacal stands are just ridiculous. And I have every confidence that when the next president of the United States takes the oath of office, particularly if it's a Democrat, all of this will vanish. Well, not all. You're going to have to go through and look at all the things Donald Trump has done. But much of what he has done will vanish. And I say, thank heaven. All of these issues are critical. But I want for a moment to talk about Ukraine, which seems to be ignored, although King Charles mentioned the valiant struggle of the president of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in this war of aggression. The Russians continue to fire drones and missiles at Ukraine. It is astounding what the Ukrainians are going through today. But I would suggest to you that what is most disturbing is the fact that the United States is not stepping up to defend Ukraine. Frankly, it's a disgrace. And one of the things which I always remember Donald Trump saying prior to his election as president, he would end the war even before he was president. And we now know that it is another promise made, a promise unkept, an unrealistic promise, and certainly not one that has any validity. The war continues, the anguish continues, and frankly, we today are paying the price. I know it's hard to focus on more than one thing. I know that when you have a president who is ensuring the indictment of the former director of the FBI, attacking free speech, Jimmy Kimmel, the F.C.C., threatening ABC licenses. I know that when you have a state visit by the King of England, all of this distracts, or I won't even say detracts, that's not the right word. It causes our attention to wander, not to be able to focus on really important things. Let me point out, and I want to mention the war in Iran now in a clear and precise fashion. You and I know that the President of the United States of America is pursuing a war. We know that Iran defiantly refuses to surrender, as the President said, unconditionally. Indeed, we know that despite the President's bluster, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, not the United States of America. And we know that the United States in the world is viewed very skeptically because we have a president and a Defense Department that seem not to get what the world is saying. This is a painful moment for someone who loves his country. The United States of America is a beacon of light to the world, but that light has been dimmed by the current occupant of the White House. I believe that with every fiber of my being. Now, we will watch today to see whether there is an attempt to arrest Jim Comey, what actions the F.C.C. will take against ABC licenses, what Prince Charles, now King Charles, will say when he stands in New York at the September 11th memorial. And we will hear more about America's role in the world. But make no mistake, what Donald Trump has done is severely damaging to this country, and we will recover from it. We will emerge stronger because of it, but we will look back on these days and wonder, how in the world was this allowed to happen? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify, or click any of the links in the show notes to connect with me on social media. And by the way, that applies directly to Friday when we will do question and answers. Please remember to share this episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. And of course, this show's been getting so much positive attention that we're excited to bring on the advertising support. We believe that will help us create more interest and opportunities for Around the Political World with John Rothman. I want to especially thank Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this program. Gogo, we couldn't do it without you, and we'll be back tomorrow with more of Around the Political World with John Rothman, right here. See you then.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.